But this is very exciting. So we're signing an executive order today that's going to lead to tremendous growth in the automobile industry. And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
And with that, Donald Trump made his most aggressive trade move so far, slapping tariffs on all cars coming into America and all car parts. A move that will significantly raise the cost of vehicles being imported to the US from around the world. But also, whether he realizes it or not, will hike the price of cars made in America by American car makers too.
Right now, a car would be made here, sent to Canada, sent to Mexico, sent all over the place. It's ridiculous.
He's right. The supply chain for car manufacturing is among the most intertwined in the world. So tariffs against some will hurt them all, as the markets made immediately clear.
Japan's Toyota. In Europe, we're looking at Mercedes-Benz and Porsche shares down by around 3 to 4%. The biggest auto mover, though, at this hour is General Motors, down nearly 9%.
Donald Trump's rationale is that the rest of the world has been ripping America off for decades, and trade deals, particularly in the auto sector, have decimated US manufacturing and jobs. Now he wants to bring those jobs back, and he's trying to use tariffs to force car makers to do their manufacturing here. Now that may well work in the long term, but in the short term, car prices for US consumers will rise, demand will likely fall, and thousands of US jobs could be lost again.
Prices on autos are just going to rise across the globe, really, which is pretty tough because when you think about every country right now, everyone's facing higher cost of living. Everything has gotten more expensive, and cars are such a big budget item for many people. So having to absorb these increased costs is really it's hitting a hard time for all consumers across the world.
So who stands to be the hardest hit? Well, by far it's Mexico, given the US imports nearly $80 billion worth of vehicles from its southern neighbour, followed by Japan, worth nearly $40 billion, then South Korea and Canada, with over $30 billion worth. In Europe, the US imports most cars from Germany, almost $25 billion worth, and imports from the UK, while smaller, are still worth more than $8 billion.
You know, this will hurt us.
Canada's Prime Minister was visiting a bridge that connects his country to the US and is a key trading hub when news of Trump's tariffs hit.
And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack on the very workers that I stood in front of at the Ambassador Bridge, a bridge that is a symbol of the tight ties between our two countries, ties that are in the process of being broken.
Broken ties, he says, because don't forget, Canada has also been clobbered by Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminium imports, as has Mexico, whose president sounded defiant today.
We have to defend the jobs created in Mexico and defend Mexican companies too. Of course, within the Mexico-US-Canada trade agreement, there should be no tariffs. That is the essence of the trade agreement.
Si ça devait advenir, je le regretterais.
If this has to happen, I will regret it. And of course, the Europeans will protect themselves by reciprocating.
Perhaps anticipating a wave of retaliation, President Trump took to social media in the early hours to warn that if the European Union works with Canada to do economic harm to the USA, large-scale tariffs, far larger than currently planned, will be placed on them both to protect the best friend that each of those two countries ever had. Car tariffs today, another round of reciprocal tariffs next week. With best friends like that, who needs enemies?
Well, the Office for Budget Responsibility estimated that a full-scale trade war could wipe out all the £9.9 billion of headroom the Chancellor bought herself with the spending cuts she announced yesterday. Rachel Reeves is pinning her hopes on government negotiators striking a deal with the Trump administration that protects the UK. Let's go live to our political editor, Gary Gibbon in Westminster. Gary.
Well, particular concern in government about luxury car exporters who are particularly exposed to the American market. And you talk to people in government, they say Jaguar Land Rover is probably number one on their list of concerns. But you're talking about what actually is President Trump going to decide on Liberation Day, as he calls it, next week? And what we really know about the talks that are still ongoing between Britain and the United States is that they are intensive. They are nothing like normal trade agreement or even mini trade agreement talks, which are glacial and include planned rounds and certain officials. These are being conducted at hurricane speed. And key to them is one of the Prime Minister's special advisors, his advisor on business, Varun Chandran. On the other side, another new figure on the block in terms of trade talks, Mark Burnett, the special US envoy to Britain, who was the producer of the Apprentice series. And Britain really doesn't know what it's in for at this point. It hopes it could get discounted altogether and get a zero tariff. It could get a discounted lower rate tariff of 10% potentially. It could get a 20% tariff. There is, it seems, not much knowledge in government at the moment of where this thing is going to go. But what the OBR said in that report yesterday is because of the fragility of the world economy, because any movement by America that encourages trade wars, even if we're spectators and not participants, it all damages, harms, endangers that mini surplus that Rachel Reeves rebuilt yesterday, and she will be very conscious of that.
Gary, thanks very much.